What if the way you've been telling your life story reveals the secret to what is holding you back? Stories play an integral part in how we see not only ourselves, but the whole world. Stories are more than just an important part of communication. They also reveal hidden aspects of our inner talk, which can either support us or end up holding us back from the very things we want most in life, without us even realizing it. Join author, mindset coach, and award-winning singer-songwriter Carrie Rowan on her show, Look for the Good, every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. when she shares nuggets of wisdom from her internationally best-selling book, Tell a New Story, 5 Simple Steps to Release Your Negative Stories and Bring Joy to Your Life. Carrie's powerful stories and compelling guests will empower you to change how you look at your own life while giving you some powerful tools and tips you can use every day to help you feel better and move yourself closer to the life you've been longing to live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Look for the Good. I'm Carrie Rowan, your host here on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can listen online on your mobile device, in your car, or you can even ask Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 radio. To learn more and for a full schedule, go to dreamvision7radio.com and evolve with us as we unite humankind in universal love. And so here we are today at Look for the Good. I can't wait to introduce you to my special guest, Lindsay Wood. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi there.
And
so great to be here, Carrie.
I'm so glad to have you. Super exciting. Before we get started, just a word from our sponsor. Are you thinking about going tiny? Maybe you've got land and you're not sure what your next step is or who will build your tiny home. Or maybe you're looking for a community that you want to live in. Or you've got land and you want to know the best strategy for figuring it all out. Well, Lindsay Wood, the tiny home lady, is your expert, and she will guide you in the right direction, connect you with the right people so you can reduce time, energy, and money from having to do it all on your own. She's the creator of Go Tiny Academy, where go-getters are taking action towards their dream of going tiny. Visit thetinyhomelady.com to find out more. That's thetinyhomelady.com. And welcome again, Lindsay. We're so excited to have you here from Arizona today.
Wonderful to be here, coming in from Prescott Valley, Arizona.
Lovely, lovely. So let me tell them a little bit about you. I'm just going to share your bio so they can get a feel for your really cool and unique experience, your background. As I already discussed, you are the tiny home lady, and you're on a mission to develop 100,000 attainable, sustainable tiny homes across the U.S. And as a real estate investor and green MBA, Lindsay believes attainable, sustainable tiny homes are a solution to the housing and climate crisis. Lindsay is creator of the Go Tiny Academy, getting buyers, investors on the path to go tiny. She guides them. She offers Go Tiny VIP tours at tiny home events so people can get answers to all their tiny home questions. Her Go Tiny Showcase connects innovative companies with builders and buyers looking to get the best products and services in the industry. Lindsay's been featured live on Fox, KT, you're really stumping me with this one, KTVU and KUSI TV, CBS, and in articles on Business Insider, East Bay Times, Tiny Home Lifestyle Podcast, and Press Democrat, among others. So thank you for joining us today. That's quite a very incredible bio you have, Lindsay.
Well, I'm really up to big things, right? I mean, small homes and big things.
I love that. I love the contradiction in that. You are doing big things with small things, right?
A lot of companies that build tiny homes are like, go tiny, live large, right? There's a lot of that because it's true. A lot of people want that tiny home lifestyle, reducing the amount of stuff or size of home that you've got to clean, heat, cool, maintain, et cetera, and the ability to just squeeze it down a little bit, go back to the future is what we like to call it. Because in 1950s, the average size square foot of a home was 1,000 square feet.
That's unbelievable. That's funny because I saw a stat, and I quote this in my talk that I give. And it said that we are this generation that lives in the biggest homes ever, square foot, of any other generation before us. But the irony is we've lost the connection, right? Nobody's coming over. Nobody's visiting. Nobody pops in. Nobody's just allowed to knock on the door and say, hey, can Carrie come out and play? Right. And so I love what you're doing because you're bringing community to homes, right? And that's one of the things you do. And I love how you create communities and you are bringing people together. So one of the things you said to me that really struck that I loved was how people spend their whole lives trying to get that big house. And why? For what? And then the kids leave and you're stuck with this big house. So how do you solve that problem? And what do you think are the benefits of going tiny?
And I want to start with, I don't want to be known as the person that's like a hater on big homes here because I grew up in one, right? I definitely experienced a 2,500 square foot home, child life. My parents still own one that's 1,900. The joke was we said, hey, mom and dad, you're going tiny. And have a place. However, what I've found for most people that are going tiny is they've lived that lifestyle. The kids have left, and now 2 of their cats are using like 2 or 3 of the rooms. So they're taking stock of like, maybe we want something different. Or the kids are still at home and they're in their 20s and maybe they could be in the backyard. And so this whole notion of a smaller home lifestyle is actually complementary to the homes that already are in existence, right? We're not going to like tear down the ones that are already there, but it's about how to look at the land that they do have. Like look at the family homestead, right? The old days, that little house on the prairie might have had an accessory dwelling unit in the backyard when some of the girls got older and said, I'd like to have a family of my own, but I don't need to move half across the country. I'd like to be right in your backyard to share a cup of sugar or to knock on the door and have dinner together, but then go back to our own worlds where we listen to our own music and watch our own, TV shows or, not have to deal with each other's dishes in the sink, right? We've all had roommates in our pathway, right? In college, you name it. Those are some of the biggest issues. So that's really the focus on multi-generational housing, which is, I would say, the biggest number of people. And, if someone says like, what's your typical person buying a home? It ranges from the people that own the home to the people that have owned the home to the people that are wanting to get that starter home, right? From the millennials to the boomers, we've got the full range available for them with a smaller home footprint.
I love that. And I love the idea of putting them in the backyard. It's like you said, borrowing a cup of sugar, it keeps that community together and the family and the lineage and the generational thing, the grandparents spending time with the grandkids. I love that concept. I think it's really, really powerful. And it is really where the world needs to go because we've lost that connection. We've really lost that connection with social media and everybody on their phones. And we've lost that human connection. If you ever see a group of young kids together out at dinner or something and they're at a table, nobody's talking. They're like this, it's like, so this brings that together. I feel like this is a solution for so many things right now in the world. Talk to me a little bit about your green MBA. I find that fascinating when we were first talking. Share that because I think that people would really love to hear about that.
Absolutely. I was about to sneeze there. I'm like, okay, I need to look at get it out. So the Green MBA was a solution to my travels around the world when I was 30. And when I got to India after like 9 months of living in Thailand and teaching English as a second language, I actually got sick. I got myself the amoebic dysentery, the whole thing, and almost died. And so that was a big wake-up call for me in my life, and went through a big transition there and came out of that about, I would say 6 months later after I came back from travels. I wanted to travel more, but my body was like, nope, you're done. Came back home and recuperated and really had the question of what am I going to do now? Now that I've had this big life exchanging experience, saw the world, sustainability was the number one thing. Now, that wasn't even a word back then.
Wow.
The word green wasn't even a thing either, but environmental business and, really thinking of myself as a business person, I wanted to learn more, found this program, the Institute for Environmental Entrepreneurship. So the word of entrepreneur and environment piecing together, that eventually morphed into a green MBA. And I'm so excited to be a part of the 300 alumni that are out there in the world. If you're ever a green MBA out there, reach out to me. Unfortunately, the program bounced around for a number of things and actually ended up, going away. Kind of like Who Killed the Electric Car video. But the cool thing is now we've got sustainability programs in most schools. It's either as
Mm.
an elective or some kind of course. Obviously, climate change, all those other things are really present in the world, versus when I started in it. So it's so great to have gotten that wealth of knowledge from a group of people that were just dedicated to saying, maybe people, planet, and profit should be considered versus only profit.
I love that. The 3 Ps.
Yes.
That's really powerful. And you are a trailblazer because this is way before, like you said, green wasn't even a thing, organic, all these things wasn't even our language, our catchphrases. So you've been on the cutting edge of this, which is, I love the depth of knowledge that you bring about this topic. Tell people if they don't know, maybe there's some people who don't know what a tiny home is. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's define that a little bit.
Yes, that's wonderful. So a lot of what came out was my friend Jay Schaefer. There he was sitting in a RV, a little tiny, tiny Airstream, like the smallest little cute baby one that you could imagine. In the winter, snow is all around him in Iowa. That RV is very cold inside because the walls are very thin. And there he was pumping a lot of heating into that RV. He didn't own the land below him. He was very much traveling, like before. Well, RV traveling has always been a thing. Usually it's for people that are retired. Now they hit the golden road, right? For him, he was in his 30s and working and realizing it would be so great to have walls that could keep the cold out and keep the warm in. And so that was really where he started thinking more. He's in architect school, started imagining what could be a different design than this RV, still on wheels because he didn't own the land below him. He wanted to be more of a digital nomad. Back then the internet wasn't as strong as where it is now, where we're zooming all over the world and being able to access all over the world. But he still had that desire to move around. That really has evolved. When we say the word tiny home, it's really a marketing term, because you could think of a tiny home as someone living in a van, someone living in a school bus, in a home that's actually got the walls and the structure. But what Jay really started was a movement that actually grew up literally to 400 square feet, because we're building them to the RV standard called ANSI, and that is the park model RV standard. Thicker walls, bigger widths. You can go up to like 12.5 feet. Actually, I think 15 feet around the country. In some states, much lower. Where the tiny home industry really specializes is that 10 to 11 feet wide. The 8.5 wide is road legal. 10 wide, you got to get a permit. Usually a transporter will get the permit for you. And then when you get into a lot 11 wide, now you get the wide load sticker. We see them traveling in transports all over the country.
Oh, yeah.
But that 8.5 to 10 is that sweet spot with the wheels, also known as chassis or movable tiny homes or tiny homes on wheels. There's a lot of names for them. But I like to teach a lot about the different building standards that are out there. And really, we as the industry use the existing one. We are also looking at making our own standard, but that does take time.
That is super cool. I love that. Just the concept, the freedom that comes with that, and just, we haven't even explored this own country, a lot of us, that where we live, and to be able to do that and be able to do that in a comfortable way, that's your home, that feels like your space, that's more than just an RV, is a super cool idea. And the fact that you could go to different communities and have different communities that you belong to, that you travel around. Talk about the ultimate snowbird, right?
You've just described my life for the last 5 totally. And right here in Arizona, Prescott Valley, never lived here in my life. We are 1 hour from Sedona, and there's a really cool concert. And I'm like, ooh, actually an hour and a half from Flagstaff, 2 hours from the Grand Canyon, hour and a half north of Phoenix and that whole metropolis. So we have got this like amazing opportunity as a hub to really go and see this part of the country that I've never seen. I've never been to the Four Corners. I've never been to Antelope Canyon, where the light at a certain time peers in this beautiful canyon that's well sought after. Like millions of people have seen these pictures of this canyon, but I've never been inside of it.
Oh, that sounds
It's just
amazing.
it's a gem here. It's a desert, desert living. We're in the high desert, so we're also 20 degrees cooler than Phoenix. But just about a year ago, I was in San Diego with our tiny home, which is 32 feet long, 8.5 feet wide, and it's traveled 10,000 miles around the country, Texas to California to Colorado and back. Hasn't been to the East Coast. It's a little bit of a journey, but really enjoying the West Coast reality with our tiny home.
I love that. I love Arizona. There's a special place. There's something so magical about Arizona. And I love that desert living because I like the cool nights and the hot days. I haven't been there in the summer, so ask me if I go there in August how much I like it. But I do love that. And it's magical. There's a lot of spiritual stuff. You're by Sedona. There's so much really cool stuff going on there. And people are so connected to the earth there. And I like the light pollution rules and that you had to build things into the environment there. It's just really magical. If for people who have never been there, there's something pretty great about living there, I'm sure.
Yes, and it's so great because I can zip over to New Mexico, where you talked about, the earth ships actually are another form of housing that someone, I forgot the man's name, he actually is called Garbage Warrior, is a movie you can watch. A really cool guy that really said, we test cars, we test airplanes. What about testing different housing structures and architecture? And that's really what became Taos, is the Earthship in the Taos area, and which is a great thing to go and see. I love architecture. In fact, here in Arizona, I'm really impressed with their commitment to advancing into that modern design and architecture.
Mm-hmm. Love
Great.
that. Love that. And the muted colors so that everything looks like the environment. It's not like, strip malls, like it's not like Florida or somewhere where there's this, I feel like it's all strip malls. It's beautiful. You can just gaze out and not feel offended by all this commercialism everywhere because it's built into the land. It's part of the land. It's very interesting and unique. I love that. I will live there someday. In my tiny home, maybe. So
Yes, exactly.
So where do you see all this? Where do you see the future of housing going?
Well, perfect question, because the world of tiny homes on wheels is oftentimes who we get called initially by, because people see it on TV, they watch Tiny House Nation, they fall in love, they go on YouTube and see tours of tiny homes. My friends, Tiny House Expedition, have a great channel for people to just explore how other people live. But usually they're the wheels. So there is this whole other movement of just tiny homes on permanent foundation, where they could either be built on site or off site. And that's probably the biggest delineation of where we're going with our housing. We've always been familiar with, I'm going to build a home, we're going to build it on site. That involves, people coming to a site. That involves bringing the materials to the site. That involves, okay, what's happening with the weather right now? Is it too hot? Is it raining? Is it snowing? But if you go to a factory and build offsite, also known as modular, prefab, factory built, now we can build in the factory what could normally be considered an on-site build, bring it to the site on the wheels, put it off the wheels and on a permanent foundation. Now you can appreciate the property value. It's considered real estate. And we can really tap into that small movement and be somewhere in the 1,000 square feet or less. That's really what I consider a small home. And get into the tiny and what's really tiny. There is no guidebook on what exactly is tiny. Back to that 1950s, 1,000 square feet was the average size of a home. Now it's 2,500. So anything less than that, which 1,000 is like less than half of that average square foot. So if you get into the 500, 600, 700 square feet, that's not going to be on wheels cruising around the country, right? But it can be delivered there in pieces, as a kit, as a complete unit, and then put down on the foundation. And a lot of people actually want that, especially for the ones that have land, and the laws and ordinances of the zoning codes do not allow for an RV to be placed in the backyard. And that still is what our tiny homes are being considered. Even though they're built with 2x4 construction, looks exactly like you'd build an on-site. In fact, just an example, one of the tiny homes that is next to me right now in this park is R30 in the floor. That is the insulation value, and R30 in the ceiling and R19 in the wall. I'll tell you right now, there are homes out there that don't even have insulation because they were built so long ago that they have to like break holes in and then fill in the insulation. So we're building beyond what regular housing is being built to, because we also know what's coming. We want to build so that we can be considered just like regular real estate, only that we're on a chassis or
I
we're
love
on wheels.
that. Yeah, I love that. That's super cool. And how do you have to shift your mindset? How would somebody shift their mindset to be into this tiny home mindset? Share a little bit about that, because then we're going to go to a break and come back. So share a little bit with that.
Simplifying your life. That is probably the number one reason why people want to go tiny. Other things, like we mentioned, they don't use in the home. Kids
Hmm.
have left the nest. They're looking at the mortgage bills and realizing I would like to retire early. There's people that have already been there, lived there, been there, done that with the big home, and they like the smaller space. They like the access to the things that really bring them the joy or the value that they hold, and nothing more. Right. I think what we've also gotten into in our culture, just like the big homes, we've often gotten to a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
And does that stuff necessarily bring us all the joy that we want? Not so much.
not so much. That's why it's down in the basement, as my
Right.
husband says, where things go to die.
Or the attic or the garage that you
Or the
can't get your
garage.
car into.
I love that. Don't go away anywhere. We'll come right back. We're just going to have a quick little commercial break. So stay tuned, everybody. Hello, welcome back to Look for the Good. We're here with Lindsay Wood. We're talking about tiny homes with the tiny home lady. And we were talking a little bit about the mindset and why people are really moving towards this. It's really a powerful movement. And let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned right sizing our American dream. What does that mean?
Well, I like to look for the good in American culture. And one of the best things that we've already got is this American dream, right? We've all been raised with it. I think it really speaks to homeownership, right? The white picket fence, that's always been the way that I've been sold it and heard about it. And so what I like to call is right sizing our American dream. If you need the big home because you've got, a bunch of kids running around and you need space, great. That's a perfect opportunity for you to have that big home. If you've already lived there, been there, done that, and you want to downsize because you want to simplify your life, you feel that travel or experiences has more of a place in your life, or maybe being the grandma on the backyard of the kids' property in, 400 or 500 square feet would bring you more joy than your home, like, 3,000 miles away, because those are real experiences. I'm speaking, in generalizations, but I've actually spoken to actual people that have these experiences. And I myself, and there I am in my late 40s with my husband living in Marin County after paying $100,000 in rental income, realizing that I would like my own size of my American dream, and I don't need a lot of stuff. I live that life of having so much stuff. My husband and I, when we went tiny, I think we counted 80 spatulas because he was a keeper. It was crazy. I was like, we don't need 80 spatulas or kitchen utensil devices, right? That we just start accumulating and such and such. So that was really something we wanted to simplify. We wanted to travel, and we wanted our own piece of the American dream and home ownership. And so that's exactly what we did. And we set out for that. Along the way, our builder went bust in the middle of the build. And one thing led to another, where we had to go from custom tiny home build to surprise DIY. And there and behold, after 8 months of us finishing our home, we hit the road and really found ourselves in, like, really my career path. I didn't know that was going to be that path. I didn't know that I would be eventually consulting with other people and guiding them on their journey to go tiny, or evolving this Go Tiny Academy. But it all stemmed from my American dream of home ownership.
That is so awesome. I love that. And then was all this birthed out of it. I love that. The 80 spatulas is hilarious because I'm thinking how many spatulas I have in my kitchen right now. And so where did the academy come from? What idea sparked that? What were you thinking to yourself? How did you evolve and say, hey, this is what I want to do to help people?
So during the Blood, Sweat, and Tears and Joy and Laughter tour, which was our AKA our build, right? There we are getting the call from the builder saying, hey, your unfinished tiny home is here and we're going out of business.
Wow.
Not a call that everyone wants to get, right?
No.
So what happened to us, that took, like I said, about 8 months to build our home and then set out and hit the road. Now, fortunately, in my family, I have my brother's a welder. Dad's a handyman. My husband's amazing at handyman. We had already flipped some homes. We didn't do all the work, but we had contractor, we had places to build. So we had the support we needed. I'm pretty handy with a drill, even though I did, sand my own arm once, but
That doesn't count.
all those things happen, but we still persevered. And then when we hit the road, we found ourselves doing 12 tiny home festivals, conferences in that year of 2019. Because what was going to happen March 2020, COVID hit. So somewhere, somehow, all that compression happened for us. And then during COVID, it was like, got some time on my hands staring at a Zoom box, right? And that's when I realized this. I was already helping people the end of 2019, doing like tiny home discovery calls, consulting, figuring out what were the ways that I could help them after what we experienced. And of course, the first thing I was talking about is how to hire the right builder. What are the things to look for? What are the things you need to know about? Because we're a brand new industry, and you're going to have all kinds of people coming in with bright eyes and bushy tail thinking they can just go get rich quick. This is not the industry for you. If you think it's going to happen, it takes time. It takes perseverance to build quality homes for people that, have those desires. And there's people that do cut corners out there. Sadly, I've got at least, I don't know, dozens of stories of people having builders go awry. And so I really wanted to protect people. And then after working one-on-one, I started working one-to-many, and that's when really the Go Tiny Academy started happening. I went from doing webinars to putting it into a course and on Kajabi, because I found myself, finding the right platform. And I'm so happy to have like 6 training modules. We also have the elite package where people get consulting with me as well as get on those weekly calls to take their project and make it happen. Because it's not something that you do in an instant. It's not like going in a store and buying a shirt and walking out.
Right. There's so many pieces to it. It's much more complicated, but I love that you created this roadmap for people. And then you also offer them support, you're coaching, because you've been through it. When somebody has lived through it and you have created a business out of it, the ins and outs. And I love the surprise DIY. If you ever find yourself in that situation, you're not going to learn it by turning into the building channel, HGTV. So this is fantastic because it's real live, step by step. Here's how you do it. And here I am to support and guide you. And you're a coach for them, which is really powerful.
And the biggest pieces actually really has shifted from early days. I was like, do you want to build it yourself or have a builder build it? Because this whole industry came from DIY. Well, the evolution that I saw happening and actually called it, we're going to see more models. We're going to see more builders turn into dealers and have more sales reps, because really the builders are the ones building the home, going off to the festival, going back to the shop. It's like, look, get your sales force. We're a growing industry. So we're going to see the things that other industries have. Like, you don't go to the CEO of Toyota and say, I'd like to buy a car. You go to the car, right? The manufactured home industry, same thing. They only sell through retailers. But our industry is very much a buyer will go direct to a builder. They will oftentimes just shake the hand of the builder. But our industry will grow. We're going to see more models. I've got builders that, do still offer, look, we'll build your shell and then you can finish it. But those are becoming more rare because you really have to have the skill set, the desire. It's either time, energy, money, right? You're going to trade off one way or the other. If you really want to learn how to build and you've got some skills, great. You're going to be great for a partial DIY, hybrid. Or if you're like, no way, I already have enough work on my hands, I will paint the house or I'll decorate it. I'll have a builder build it. That is your 99% of the people that are looking to go tiny are going to have a builder build it. And so in addition to that, one of the biggest things I teach about the 3 pillars of going tiny: the land, the finance, and the build. You got to check off all 3 boxes. Where is your property? Will what you want to do be allowed on that property?
Right.
It's called zoning. I take my hand and I put it sort of flat. This is zoning. What is allowed and what is not allowed? And then I take my other hand and put it straight up and down. That is the building. What is the building standard that is being built to? These 2 have to talk. Building standards and zoning laws and all those things like permits at your local jurisdiction are usually the things that most people have never learned because they bought their home from a realtor and all of that was done for them.
Right.
And now they're wanting to buy the idyllic land and put a tiny home on it. I hear it all the time. And this is the area where I guide people the most, strategizing how to look for the land, how to talk to realtors, how to identify what's going to work. And then who are the professionals that you need to connect with to learn about that property that you either own or want to own. We don't want to get anyone into property that doesn't work for them, because I've heard too many stories.
I'm sure. I'm sure, but you've been in there, you know this industry so well. You've been doing it longer than almost anybody else, which is why you're such a great resource and an expert in this. I love that. I keep thinking of my mom, like, she's got this one house in Florida, but she likes to come up here and spend summers with us. And wouldn't she love to have her own little spot of heaven, where the dog wasn't barking and the kids weren't yelling and, but yet be right there to, experience our family and dinner and all that stuff. So I love that idea. It's a solution on so many levels, especially now that we have these kids with failure to thrive, and failure to launch even. And so they're in their parents' homes, and this is a nice way to downsize and yet let them feel like they can manage something of their own and learn all those things of responsibility and being a homeowner and all those things that come along with it. What would you say? I love that you said you love looking for the good, obviously, in all of this, and the shift in people's mindsets about what they need and how we're all trying to downsize in a lot of different ways and simplify our lives. What would you say is the biggest emotion? What is the biggest thing that you've gotten out of downsizing and just being? I mean, I can see the joy emanating from you. What would you say is your biggest emotion that you can offer to other people that really draws them in? What are most people looking to gain from this?
Pride. Excuse me, pride. As
Really?
Americans, we have been taught we're go out, make it happen, just do it, all the slogans we've ever heard. But homeownership is absolutely a part of it. It's also investment, like just doing the right things with your money. So what you just described about having your mom in your backyard is an emotional connection for you and your family, right? You're going to have these amazing memories of your kids or grandkids and just any families out there that want to have that connection. That goes deep. That's priceless. Like, you can't put prices on that, right? That just is amazing. Beyond pride, I'm almost speechless about what is the word for that. But in addition to that, you're being responsible for your own investment of a property. We are stewards on this planet. We are only here for a blip and then we're gone. So what are we doing while we're here? And in the world of real estate, let's appreciate the property value. Let's appreciate the fact that families can live there on the same property. Let's say long after you're gone and you put a home on your property, someone else can look at that property and go, oh my God, this is perfect. We'll live in the back house. We'll have someone else rent in the front and we're going to go travel. That
Love
happens
it.
also. Right? Take all the pictures that are also opportunities, because it's not our fault that wages in the 70s were only house prices in the 70s were only 2 times our wages. Now it's 6 to 8 times.
Wow.
A lot of economics that are working against us. It's not someone's fault that the housing prices have gone incredible and their wages didn't keep up, right? There's a lot of things going on here. Of course, economists out there, help us, right? Get some things going on. But we've also had a lack of building since the 70s.
Yeah,
and
that's amazing.
With this law of economics and supply and demand, that's what we're also dealing with. So wages, supply and demand, all those factors coming back to, I would like to own my own home. I don't need to own a mansion. Let's see how this goes. Because a lot of people step in these tiny homes and go, this is bigger than I thought.
Yeah. And it feels good because you feel like you're doing something green. You're doing something for the world. You mentioned something too that I think would be attractive to a lot of people is if you do have that big house, and maybe it's not a good time to sell, and you're renting that sort of like a VRBO, which is so popular nowadays. And then you have a tiny home in the back. And like you said, use your resources now to travel around the world and see all the places that you have always wanted to see and bring your family. Well, they still want to go. There's so many cool options that it puts into people's laps. I love it. So, hey, everybody, don't go anywhere. We're going to skip off for a quick minute for a break, but we'll be right back in a jiffy. Hello, welcome back to Look for the Good. We're here with Lindsay Wood, the tiny home lady. And is this a fabulous conversation? Let's talk a little bit, Lindsay, about this issue of the American dream, right? We feel like we're constantly running and going, and we're always having to reach for more, the bigger house, the bigger car, all of these things that we've been kind of sold growing up. How have you shifted that mindset to really show the value, and how do other people look at that? How can they look at themselves as maybe they don't want to go to that job? Maybe they don't want the big house anymore. What's the big shift that tiny homes can bring to other people's lives?
This is such an important story that we've all, gotten into. And, supporting America and working jobs, those are all great. For some people, they recognize that they may have something inside them that really needs to come out as an entrepreneur. They want to do it, they may have a side hustle or a side hobby that really speaks so much to them, but being able to actually have the resources to maintain their life might be that they reduce their housing size, because oftentimes your housing will be often what you go and work for. We were facing that reality. We were in Marin County. Everything around us was $1 million, and those were fixer-uppers.
Wow.
Right? They were outdated kitchens, right?
Mhm.
So to look at that, to dive into that, that means I would have had to maintain a certain career path, a certain job, and always been in that. Some people also want to just take breaks. I mean, I'm kind of jealous of the teachers and their sabbaticals, right? Like, why are
Right.
just teachers getting sabbaticals? Why not? We're talking mental health here. And after
Yeah.
what happened with COVID, there's a lot of attention to mental health, and having breaks more than 2 weeks in a year for American culture too. You go to talk to any European and they're like, 2 weeks, that's not enough. Whatever it may be, right? More travel, more vacation, less home to manage. The opportunity of downsizing means that you reduce your financial footprint, meaning that you may still have more opportunity. You might still work that job, funneling money to your retirement and retire
Mhm.
early. You might still work that job and say, you know what? I'd love to work here, but guess what? I need 6 weeks off a year. I need 2 months off per year. And if you're really a, sought after person and you can call those demands and keep your job, great. I did have this one woman I met in Texas, this beautiful village called Tiny House Village, in our village farm in Austin, Texas, 10 minutes from downtown. She realized, looked around, she had the American dream. She had 4-bedroom home in Texas, and 2 of her cats were using 2 of the rooms. That was it. And she realized that she could keep her job. She loved her nonprofit job. She was working 40 hours a week, and she could go down to 20 hours a week and do more gardening, do more of the hobby type of stuff, and just have more expansion in her life by just going smaller. And she had this big wraparound deck with a big garden. She had enough, big kitchen in her home, and her loft bedroom is, because she was younger.
Mhm.
Not everyone has to do the loft. You can also do downstairs bedrooms. And so she really saw that she was going to create the life that she dreamed of. And this is the opportunity
Mhm.
that tiny homes present themselves.
I love that. It's making dreams come true on a smaller level, but that's really where the world is heading. I feel just like you're saying, we realize, this whole big resignation, the great resignation with COVID, people realize spending more time at home. They liked that, the connection they had with their family, making dinner every night, not being in the car commuting to work back and forth. Zoom, us here today talking from Arizona and
Yes.
Massachusetts, right? It's like the power of the internet. We are the Jetsons, and we're living the
Minus a
Jetsons,
little food, minus the food today that just comes out with a pill.
right? I never give up that experience of the eating, because you need to use all those spatulas that you have. So,
Right.
to cook with them. But it's true. It's like, where are we heading? And I just love this shift in mindset to be able to dig down, like you said, what is that calling inside of me? Because if you were to summarize for everybody, or you were going to do, some sort of a survey on people, are you living what the life you intended to? Are you reaching those dreams? Are you feel like there's something bigger in your life? Are you making enough of a contribution? Because if you don't have that, you can have the house, you can have the money, you can have all that stuff and still feel empty inside. And I feel like this is a way for people to do it now. Like you said, retire early, find a way to do it now.
Or half retire. I mean, like the woman's, she took 20 hours a week. Maybe you say, if your job can work it out, and obviously with Zoom, I can go and live somewhere else. I mean, that's what we saw, was the big, not just the big resignation, we also saw the big flight. San Francisco left to
Yes.
Tahoe.
Right?
The entire Bay Area that I'm from literally goes to Tahoe because they were like, we don't have to come in the office. We're out of here. Like, we live in Silicon Valley. We can sell our, our $3 million ranch home, a 4-bedroom in Palo Alto, and go and buy a bigger land. Or that's where we've seen the big transition of people traveling and moving so many places. In additional to the digital nomads, like, I'll just go live in Airbnbs and travel around the country. Whatever it
Yeah.
may be, we have never had it this good and this interconnected. And where that really speaks to is the ability to really write what it is you want to do in your life.
I love that. Write your new American dream, right? I love that. It's so powerful. And to step out perhaps and be an entrepreneur like you did and share with other people all this knowledge that you've gained from being in real estate for years and everything that you know. And you're giving people that a little slice of heaven, a little, the ability to be free and go and pick up and move from California to Arizona or wherever you want to be and experience and really live life. And that's looking for the good right there in a nutshell.
And I look for the good all the time. That is something that I feel like I'm super grateful that I've been raised by the amazing parents that I have, Bob and Linda Hassett. And they're very much the entrepreneurs that I was raised by. My dad was in the Army, and then got out of the Army as a civilian and became a physical therapist. My mom,
Wow.
exactly, the nutritional health line, and did multi-level marketing, so she could stay at home. She didn't, after 10 years of being an at-home mom, to go back into the workforce, she's like, I'm going to do my own thing. So I was raised by entrepreneurs. I get not everyone may have that example, but I did. And if you don't have that example, look to other people that have that, lifestyle that you're looking for. I realize it's not easy, right? I have my own like ups and downs as an entrepreneur. And this is what I tell my husband, like, we are living the life that people are dreaming of.
Mm-hmm.
And I also learned that in high school. I chose to go travel in my 20s, 30s, because there's no guarantee that when I hit 65 and I retire, that my body wants to pick up a backpack and go haul it around Europe and Asia and all that, which I can tell you right now is not the reality. Like,
Been there, done that.
right? Drag the little suitcase along, so it changes. And I saw my aunt also, she worked her butt off until she retired. And then she did travel, but not to the extent that I feel like I'm so grateful I've done. So if people are out there going, should I do it? Then maybe there's ways that if your dream of what you want to do outbeats the story that you've been driven, question that story, question the propaganda and where it comes from. And you may look for support in other areas, like family members and people around you may all live the lifestyle that is supporting a certain, focus in this world, but you want something different just because you do. And if it's bugging you enough, go find the people, or at least start living that way, and you'll find the people.
Amen. And find a mentor. I always tell that to my clients. You need a mentor like you. You're a mentor for this. And you were raised by two entrepreneurial spirited parents. And I love that. So find a mentor like Lindsay that can show you the ropes. She's been there. Find somebody who's done it. You can shorten your learning gap, right? That all this new information tremendously by finding somebody to follow and watching and just following what they did. And I love what you said. Don't be afraid to rewrite your story, rewrite your own American dream to your dream, because that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty. We can do what we want, right? And find a way to rewrite that and question the things that have been handed to you, the things that you just assume, those we call them BS belief systems that don't serve you any longer, because this can be part of it, right? Why have I bought into that? It really doesn't feel right to me. Well, you have the choice, just like you're saying, Lindsay. I love that. You have the choice to rewrite that in a new and powerful way. And that's fabulous.
And if your parents, your kids are watching, right? They're watching how you play a role in this great, wonderful society. And if your dream is going left unattended, then this is the opportunity, because I do have a lot of people that are owners of property. Those are really the ones that I'm calling out. That's my big ask is, if you've got land, we need your land to create more density and infill housing. That is the attainable, sustainable pathway. Big developments, big apartment complexes, that just means more sprawl, more roads, more everything. We've got these little cute backyards everywhere that really need some attention. Turn your grass into cash, or put loved one in the backyard.
I love that. Turn your grass into cash. Tell us again, where can we find you, Lindsay? Where can we find out more about your work and your classes and your seminars?
thetinyhomelady.com, and of course on social, on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Tiny Home Lady, and on TikTok, I think Go Tiny Now, and YouTube, Go Tiny TV.
Love it. Go Tiny TV. Woohoo. Look her up. Find her. You can find all this incredible information. And thank you so much for being with us today. I've learned so much. It's been such an uplifting conversation because it just makes me feel like there's so much opportunity. People can redefine their dreams and have their own American dream just the way they want it. And
This is the housing breakthrough now. We are disrupting the way it's been, and we're here. We've got you.
I love that. So find her, go find her at thetinyhomelady.com. And one last word before we leave from our sponsor. Are you thinking about going tiny? Or maybe you've got land and you're not sure what your next step is or who will build your tiny home. You're looking, or maybe you're even looking for land and you want to know the best strategy for figuring it all out. Do you want to live in a community or develop one of your own? Well, Lindsay Wood, as we spoke to her today, the Tiny Home Lady is your expert and will guide you in the right direction. She will connect you with the right people so you can reduce your time, energy, and money from having to do this all on your own. She's the creator of Go Tiny Academy, where the go-getters are taking action towards their dreams of going tiny. Visit thetinyhomelady.com to find out more. Today, go to thetinyhomelady.com and say hello to Lindsay. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for being here with us today on Look for the Good.
Thank you so much. Go Tiny.
Go Tiny. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And remember, it's never too late to live your best story. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Look for the Good with your host, Carrie Rowan, best-selling author and mindset coach. Join us every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. right here at Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. If you weren't able to catch an episode, no worries. Just visit our website to find all the archived episodes of Look for the Good on demand, so you don't miss a thing. And remember, it's never too late to live your best story. For additional resources or to find out about how you can work with Carrie directly, visit carrierowan.com for more details.